Hello, my name is Ashley Maxey.
And I'm Melissa Nolasco with Special Post-Election Edition South Florida Media Network.
The year 2020 has made a name of its own. With the election and the fight for social justice, this year will be in the history books.
The power of social media made waves within the country to promote candidates, to bring light to situations that we haven't noticed, and to also bring unity within communities.
The influence of social media also had an impact on social justice, rallying millions to a cause. That has been proven effective with the Black Lives Matter movement.
South Florida Media's network Juliana Hahn 2 takes a look at how the mission changes post-election.
Now that the elections are over, many Americans have shifted their focus back to the Black Lives Matter movement. Supporters felt overjoyed when the news broke out that President Trump had lost the race. While many thought the hard battle was finally over, activist groups like Artists for Black Lives Matter feel it has just begun.
I feel like I was overjoyed when it happened, but I also felt really energized to get to work because now we have to sort of attack our own party or attack the Democratic Party to make sure that they swing all the way to the left and to protect Black people that brought that election win for the entire country.
Apart from pushing to get the newly elected leaders involved in the movement, supporters are also looking into ways they can help locally. Those that have been involved say that the election result was a good step forward, but real change starts from the ground up.
And look at locally, because I think a lot of times we're so big in what's going on in the White House, when really we gotta look within. Look at ourselves first, branch out and look at community, branch out from there, and it will expand.
Here in Broward County, residents celebrate two big wins this election. On November 3rd, the county made history, electing the first African-American public defender and state attorney.
With history also made in electing the first African-American and woman vice president, many Americans are feeling hopeful for the future. As the election saw a huge voter turnout this year, activists want to encourage people to keep participating in making a change.
What's going on with the elections. You have to participate in local government. You have to participate at every level, and it's all hands on deck and keep going. When you're tired, tap out the next person.
And this is Juliana Hontu reporting for the South Florida Media Network.
To get a closer look at the Black Lives Matter movement from both an academic and a personal angle, South Florida Media Network's Casey Mintz spoke to Professor Rudy Jambart.
Thank you for being with us today, Professor.
Thank you for having me.
On the morning Joe Biden was declared winner of the election, CNN commentator Van Jones said that it was easy to be apparent that it showed that character matters. Do you feel that the right character was shown? The character that it's not okay to hate a person based off of race or ethnicity? What are your thoughts?
No. It's hard once that genie goes out of the bottle. It's hard to kind of put that back. But as it relates to my fears as a Black man raising a Black boy, has that gone away or has that lessened? No, it has not. It has not.
An interesting question comes to mind. Is there anything that will lessen that fear? Is there anything you can think of that will bring that fear down for you and your son?
Students of mine will one day become middle-aged people. And the hope is that we understand that this is not a microwave process. There has to be generational shift. And in order for there to be generational shift, it will often take a generation or two in order for that shift to occur.
One final question, Professor. What can be done today to see that generational shift to, in turn, see improvement in race relations in this country?
I think that there needs to be organized efforts. So an example that comes to mind is, man, smoking was really popular. And then all of a sudden this thing called the Truth Campaign happened. And now smoking was not as popular, right? That's an organized effort. And so I think that's what needs to take place. There needs to be organized efforts on everyone involved to create a cultural shift. And if we do that, I think we'll be okay.
Thank you for being with us today, Professor Jean-Bar. And for South Florida Media Network, I'm Casey Mintz.
Even though President Trump is leaving office, he's leaving behind a lasting influence on the Supreme Court. South Florida Media Network's Carolina Calderon looks into concerns over Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's replacement.
As the 2020 elections come to an end, the nation's focus partially transfers to the future of the Supreme Court, with the confirmation of Judge Amy Coney Barrett. Judge Barrett's quick and sudden appointment to the Supreme Court has raised concerns, including her previous stated stances on the Affordable Care Act and fears she will have difficulty separating church and state.
The simple reality that she does not believe women should access birth control is a danger, because we know that now after Affordable Care Act passed, many women were able to access birth control with no copay, which made it a barrier before.
With a 6-3 majority, conservatives now have the potential to move forward with President Trump's promise to end legally accessible abortion care in the United States.
One of the dangers that we see with Justice Barrett being appointed to the Supreme Court is overturning Roe v. Wade and making it illegal for women to have abortions. And then we go back to pre-Roe v. Wade when people had to seek back alley abortions.
Judge Barrett has also openly stated her disapproval of the LGBTQ+ community, which raises a different set of concerns.
Like, I personally have had the issue where I've gone to a doctor and have been denied medical service by a doctor because I'm trans, and that's a whole issue.
This has been Carolina Calderon for the South Florida Media Network.
Social media became a safe place for some Americans to voice their political views during the 2020 election.
It gives a voice to the young, even those who are too young to vote. South Florida Media Network's Lissy Lady Hernandez has more.
This 2020 presidential election, people have taken to social media to voice their views. Social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter have brought awareness on the importance of exercising your right to vote.
I saw a lot of celebrities and influencers sharing their opinions online, and a lot of them matched mine. So I was ready to vote, and I was really comfortable with sharing my opinions.
These social media platforms provided links on where to find their local voting sites or request their mail-in ballots. Although some Gen Zers like Sabrina Kelling are ineligible to vote, they have gotten their chance to voice their thoughts through social media.
Don't let this image fool you, because it is. So I'm 17, so I'm not really able to vote. However, I do like to use social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram in order to get my voice out there, because I feel like there's a lot of issues that not many people are aware of or don't quite understand very well. So I do use social media in an effort to exploit my voice.
Celebrities and influencers have also played a large role in encouraging certain candidates for presidency.
So this was my first time voting, and I had such a great time because on all my social media feeds and everything in general, I saw a bunch of people posting, and it really kept me educated.
Social media has been an outlet for some voters to be able to show their reasons for choosing a candidate.
So they're the most influenced maybe of all, because social media is part of their life. It's where they get their news, information, their word of mouth, etc. They probably trust it more than the news media.
This is Lissy Lady Hernandez with the South Florida Media Network.
In this election, political campaigns also embrace digital platforms like never before. For more on this, South Florida Media Network's Christina Feliciano speaks to a political expert.
Today we have the director of FIU's Institute for Public Policy, Brian Fonseca. Brian, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about just how prevalent social media has been in the 2020 presidential election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. So how important do you think social media has been in politics, and especially for the campaign management of the election?
Well, I think social media or digital marketing has become overwhelmingly impactful to campaigns. I mean, it does two things, really. It increases the reach and increases the speed of messaging. You know, you can use digital platforms for not just promoting and marketing, but also disinformation and misinformation. And so I think this is another really important thing, especially when you look in the South Florida market, when you see massive disinformation campaigns around painting the Biden-Harris ticket as socialist or sort of progressives, aligning them to, people like Fidel Castro or Hugo Chavez. I think that was part of disinformation campaigning, in which you leveraged, again, the speed and the reach of digital platforms to try to shape the behavior or shape the cognition of constituencies. We saw that in South Florida. Of course, we saw it on the other side too, campaigns that were trying to paint, anyone Republican as racist. I mean, those are the types of ways in which these digital platforms are being used today to amplify the message.
So do you think that the creators, so Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they kind of feel like it's a double-edged sword in a way, where we try and censor it here, but it's going to get out anyways. So why put the responsibility on us to begin with? It should just be the responsibility of the originator.
That's a great point, and I'm not sure how that's going to be reconciled. Now, so Trump can come out on election night and claim fraud, and it may be live, and you can't do anything about the live feed. But then news stations have a choice on whether or not they rebroadcast, and they continue to put it out there in the information space. It's the same thing. When Trump tweets, people caught it. It was then after the tweet that it was censored. So there's a lag time there. But I do think your point is an important one. And that is, what is the responsibility on digital platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and others to actually have responsibility over the content that's propagating through their platforms. In places like Brazil, in which now platforms are being held criminally liable for the information that their platforms are being used to distribute. And that forced platforms to do things like censor. And this is why, Twitter is saying, well, 48 hours before the election, we're not going to run any campaign ads. And, all of that is a product of the pressure that I think digital platforms are feeling underneath this new information.
How do you think social media, specifically for campaigns, how do you think that's going to look moving forward?
I think you're going to see more rigor in platforms, where platforms are doing more of the, fact checking, or at least flagging tweets. So that's one of the things that you'll now see in Twitter and Facebook, where it'll flag it and say, this may not be truthful information. Around things like, for example, election logistics. I mean, where people are reading tweets that you can't vote past 2 p.m., right? That's false. That's disinformation. But there's got to be a place for us to go to say, it's very easy. All I have to do is go to this place, and I'll get all of the accurate information that I know is curated by an authority, and not a random bot that's out there tweeting things to confuse me and change my voting behavior. So I think more of that focus on the consumer is probably something you're going to see increase a lot over the next 2 years, especially over the next 4 years or 3 years, as we get ready for the 2024 presidential general elections.
Well, thank you so much for your time and your analysis. It was very interesting, and it gave us a different perspective on social media and elections. So thank you so much for your time, Brian.
Thanks, Christine. I appreciate it.
Speaking of young people, the millennial vote had more of an effect on this election than any other in history. 2 young voters, one from each party, share their views about voting with South Florida media network's Chabelis Leal.
53% of eligible millennials voted in this year's presidential election. Some say issues such as the COVID-19 pandemic, gun control, and climate change motivated them to go out and vote.
I think what is driving millennials and Gen Zers, from my experience, they're conscious of the global warming. They're conscious of how climate is affecting their future, and we're stuck with it.
I definitely think a lot of people my age voted for Trump. They're just very afraid to speak out about it, especially on social media, because of all the backlash that comes with it. I believe in Trump and Trump's idea to better the economy. I think in the situation we're put in today, the pandemic and the economic issues with small businesses and even big businesses going out of business, I think it's the right time for the economy to be on the rise.
Millennials were vocal throughout social media, showing their support for either candidate, some just encouraging their followers to go cast a vote. The young generations accounted for 17% of the voters' shares. 62% of voters ages 18 through 29 voted for Joe Biden, while 35% voted for Donald Trump. Reporting for South Florida Media Network, Chabelis Leal.
In our final story, a feeling we're all familiar with, the pressure that comes with living in a battleground state like Florida. After months of lawn signs, ads, calls, postcards, texts, and emails, it has all come to an end. South Florida Media Network's Celeste Reynolds has the story.
During the recent election season, voters became fatigued by constant reminders to register and to vote. Now, a voting behavior specialist shares even she became fatigued during the 2020 election cycle.
Certainly, I think this election we've seen text messages become the big get out the vote effort. I'm actually a registered independent, and they were just constant from all sides, everywhere. It got particularly annoying just on a personal level.
Text messaging and phone calls may be bothersome, but Dr. DePaulo Gold suggests we the people still come back for more.
So even though we may in the electorate say, oh, we're tired of it, we are glued to the TV, to the phone to find out what is happening, particularly in those battleground states right now.
This next voter is a professor at Florida International University in South Florida. When it came to frequent reminders, she received a double dose.
So what happened during the campaigns, during the election season, I was bombarded by text messages and phone calls from campaigns literally from all around the country. But I got a bunch of them from Pennsylvania because I have a 215 area code on my phone, even though I've not lived there for 8 years now.
Unlike those who were bothered by the constant reminders, this first-time voter welcomed the invitations. As a poll administrator during the 2020 election, she believes it was important to encourage others to exercise their right.
I do not recall having the same type of reminders as I did for this year, which I think is an improvement. In my opinion, it's an improvement on how people should exercise their right to vote.
As Renata shared, those constant reminders may not necessarily be a bad thing. I'm Celeste Reynolds reporting for the South Florida Media Network.
That's all the time that we have. For the South Florida Media Network, I'm Ashley Maxey.
And I'm Melissa Nolasco. Thanks for watching.